I'm your host, Linda Fontaine. Today, my guest is Dr. Cass Ingram. He's out of Chicago, and he's an expert on Lyme disease. He's the author of over 30 books. He's a doctor on natural healing, and he's just full of information, and it's a real treat for us to have him here today. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Ingram.
Oh, it's my pleasure. How are you doing? Well, you're hanging in there, but you've got a personal story to tell. I do too. It's like that with Lyme disease. All of a sudden, a close friend, as an associate, a relative, a wilderness buff, a normal person with the walking their dog, something happens, they get the tick bite, or you can get it from blood transfusions. You can get it sexually from your mate. You can get it through even mosquitoes and black flies, but mostly ticks. All of a sudden, bang. That's what happens.
It's been horrible. It's been horrible. And like you said, I have a story to tell. I have a son right now who's battling Lyme disease with Bartonella and Babesia, which are co-infections. And you've battled with this yourself, right?
That's exactly right. So, I mean, I was at the top of my game doing about a week or two research in the bush in Wisconsin in the hot zone. And I wore the white suit. But the last 2 days, I didn't do the suit, and I didn't pull my socks over my pant leg. I didn't see any ticks, but how are you going to see a deer tick? So a week later, I feel like I'm going to die, and I'm running around, all hot sensation, itchy, burning in my body, and my head feels like it's going to explode. It's not a true headache. My head felt like it was in one room, my body in another. All of a sudden, I couldn't walk on one side. All of a sudden, I couldn't put my arm through a shirt, and I found the bullseye rash. I finally found it on my back. I said, "Oh no, I got the stupid Lyme," and it just was like that. It just went down after that.
Well, there's so many different methods out there on how to treat Lyme disease with antibiotics and all these different therapies. What do you suggest? What is your approach?
Well, I battled this stupid thing for a year. So I wrote the book over that, A Lyme Disease Cure, and I discovered how to get rid of it. I couldn't at first navigate this. I ended up in a wheelchair a couple of times, but finally I figured it out that it's the wild oregano oil and the other spice oils. They destroy the spirochete. They destroy the Babesia easy, actually. Bartonella is a little more difficult, but they'll destroy it. And that's been shown at Johns Hopkins. They know now that cinnamon, clove, but particularly oregano oils will eat the spirochete. That's what I discovered.
Well, how come more doctors and people out there that are learning about Lyme disease, the Lyme literate doctors and such, how come they're not jumping on this?
Well, Johns Hopkins did after we did our work. And they've published at least 3 articles saying that there's no doubt that the spice oils eat the biofilm, eat the spirochete, destroy the pathogen. We're always slow to natural medicine, and that means nothing. If we don't know about a natural cure or remedy, that just shows the ignorance of the medical profession and the lack of foresight and lack of progress. That we should know about the synthetics, the vaccines, but we should also know about the medicines in nature that are effective. Probably everybody has heard of oil of oregano by now. It is a germicide. So why aren't we studying it more? Why aren't we using it? And then there are no side effects. Look, I was completely discombobulated. I didn't know which way was right or left. I was complaining to everybody. I'm only 45, I can't be, or I guess I was 50 at the time. I can't have this. This is crazy. And so finally I got desperate and I said, I got to get rid of it. I'm tired of it. You stupid Lyme disease. So I took a big tumbler of water and I took this product right here, this edible oil of wild oregano, very famous, P73. I dumped it in the tumbler, drank the whole bottle all at once for about 10 days. I went from neuroborreliosis in a complete incompetent human to at least somewhat functional.
Wow.
That's a lot of oregano oil for most people.
That's a lot. So a bottle a day, not just a few drops a day. You were using a bottle a day.
Yeah. And I've recommended that, but only with the edible wild kind, which you see here. I can't do it with some of the synthetics or the farm raised.
That's what I was going to ask you. There's different grades of all these things. How do you know which ones to take? So you're saying it will say wild on it, or
it has to say wild. Now, I don't know how many companies make wild. This is the original one. It says oil of wild oregano. It says wild in script. Oreganol P73 super strength. This one is famous and is definitely wild, not a fake. So what I found was that oil of wild oregano from the mountains is non-toxic, and that it's an effective antibiotic replacement.
Okay. And it won't wreck your gut.
It will clean up the gut. I wish I could show you these pictures of the studies on swine. The swine had sickness inside their intestines. They gave them the oregano oil, and the intestines turned pink, healthy, better absorption. So actually, the entire intestinal tract benefits from the natural spice oils, whether it's oregano oil or sage oil, cumin oil. There are many, cinnamon oil. Cinnamon's a little bit more harsh to the stomach, but not the rest of the gut. And here's another thing I did. So I like the oregano as the number one thing, but I also took this. This is oregano, sage, cinnamon, and cumin. So this is 30 capsules. I took the whole thing, 2 of these a day.
There's 2 bottles a day?
That's right. Yeah. And that's what finally, when I combined that, and then I'll show you one other, now I don't just to plug things, just so you know what I did. That was the oregano water or juice of oregano. When I combined all those together, I got rid of the disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I can't believe that much. So 2 bottles of that a day, that's wild.
Yeah, that's 60 capsules. And this is 12 ounces, so a half a bottle or more a day. I had a girl who was 40-year-old nurse that was seizing on the floor with the Lyme disease. Whoa. Finally, and she'd been battling it for 30 years. Finally, we got her to drink a ton of this and the capsules. She's okay now. She went back to driving, went back to living. But it took time, people. It's not this is a really difficult pathogen to eradicate. This is spirochete. It corkscrews into the tissues, corkscrews into the joints, loves the skin, loves the neurological system. It has this little attachment at the end. It'll bind to the cell and it'll screw its way in to the tissue and cause massive inflammation and irritation. Loves brain tissue and also the spinal cord.
Yeah, that's where my son has it. He has it in his neurological system. And I understand there's like biofilms where they like to hide out. It's like they
make their own.
Smart.
Yeah, they're smart enough to make that film. You know, oregano oil, if you've ever taken it, is really hot.
I have taken it. I tried it once with my son. I was like, whoa, that's tougher than you think.
It's really dissolving. You see, cinnamon too, clove bud oil. But I like the cinnamon, oregano, cumin, sage combination. And I really like the oil of oregano in a super strength form for Lyme disease. There's no side effects, no toxicity. The only side effect is that you could get rid of this stupid thing. So,
like for someone like my son who's had it a while, how long do you think on this protocol would it take to eradicate the part?
6 months is, but he has to show some improvement in 90 days. See, the beauty of the wild oregano and these other spice oils is that they're foods. And because they're foods and grass substances, if we had to take massive amounts for a massively destructive disease, for a terminally inflammatory condition that no synthetic drug can reverse, then you can take the huge doses. That's the difference. You can't do that with drugs. You could risk your life. And you get candida. That's the other thing with your son. He has to have the candida, the fungus. You have to have that whenever you take antibiotics for 90 days. Doesn't matter how many probiotics you take. Once you get the candida, that's why I didn't do the antibiotics. I knew I would get the yeast, and then I would be immunosuppressed, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where he's at now. And that has me concerned too, because he's been on antibiotics for 7 months. And now with the COVID-19, he's so immunosuppressed that I'm worried about how he'd be able to fight that off.
That's exactly what happened. I had a guy come in here who had COVID-19, and he had red skin, fungus fingernails, fungus toenails, fungus coated tongue.
Oh.
I said, "You're a sweet guy." He said, "I love sweets." He had so much fungus, and then the COVID came in and nailed him. He survived, but that's not always the case. So
Sure.
you cannot have fungal immunosuppression. Bad idea right now. You have to clean that fungus out. The oregano is the king for that. You know, we did the research at Georgetown University. It was more effective in cleaning out fungus and candida than the drugs.
Wow.
No side effects.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's key, the side effects. Because while he's trying to eradicate this horrible parasite and this bacteria, he's getting a lot of side effects.
And
he's got a wrecked gut, wrecked everything. So we need to turn that around.
His gut is wrecked from the candida.
It is
You
wrecked.
have to unwreck it with the oregano. And that's what they're doing in the pigs, in the chickens. You know, what is it? Is it Purdue Chicken that's using oregano? Bell and Evans is using oregano instead of antibiotics routinely for their chickens.
Wow. Well, let's end right now with that and take a break and come back, because we have got a lot to talk about. We've just started this conversation. So we'll be back in just a minute with more with Dr. Cass Ingram.